All right, faithful, the boys are here. How is everybody doing tonight? What is going on, faithfuls? And Nothing But Niners crew is here to bring you guys some friendly conversation, man. What we're going to be doing today, instead of a debate, we're going to be discussing our current GM and John Lynch. The general manager has been here, and a lot of people only judge these guys based off of what they did in the draft, okay? But John Lynch has been doing a lot more than that, and he's been extremely busy following the conclusion of the 2018 season. So, 2018, 2019. So Nick and I are going to dive deep into what John Lynch has done and see if he's a good GM, if he's a bad GM, perhaps he's somewhere in the middle. Before we get down to the nitty gritty, though, we have to always go through the formalities. You guys got to make sure you give us a checkout, okay? Look us up, man. Nothingbutniners.com is the website. www.nothingbutniners.com. You'll see the articles. You'll see the pictures of the faithful out there. If you guys want your pictures on the website, send them in to us, okay? You can shoot us an email, nbniners@nothingbutniners.com. We have a fan page there for you guys to check out, okay? Also, you're going to see our other social media pages. Our Twitter and our Snapchat are Nothing But Nine ERS. Our Facebook and our Instagram pages are Nothing But Niners, okay? It's spelled all the way out. I am personally 49ers Mike _NF, and my man Nick that's joining me here tonight is 49er Faithful 365. What's going on, baby? How you feeling over there?
What's up, Mikey? I'm a little tired, man. We did a 5-hour stream yesterday. Yes, 5 hours and 11 minutes, but it was a lot of fun. Got to interact with a lot of the fans. Went through a couple mock drafts. It was fun to see, different people's perspectives. One draft we were killing it, and it just crashed on us, but it's all right. We got another one in. It was a boring Saturday night, but figured I'd chit chat with the fans, and we held it down over here.
Yeah, man, 5 hours is insane, bro. Listen, I don't know how YouTube didn't kick you off. That is like we did something like that. I think the first draft. I think the first draft day or the day 2 of the first draft or something like that. That's when we decided to start breaking it up into groups of 10 instead. But the first draft was mad long because we were there before. I was out there and everything. It was wild. But I commend you for it, man. It takes a lot of dedication. Like I said last night when I jumped on the show, I hope a lot of people appreciate what you did because I know a lot of guys aren't going to do that for 5 hours straight. So that's real dedication and love right there. But yeah, man, it's what was that? Oh, it must have been feedback. I'm sorry. But yeah, man. So John Lynch has been our GM. I mean, let's go ahead and jump into this thing because we don't, everyone knows who we are already. They know what we're about over here. And we've got a lot of support. I appreciate that from everybody out there. So salute to everybody who's in the chat. I don't have eyes on that right now. But Nick, man, John Lynch has been here now 2 seasons. This is season number 3. This is starting the midway point of his 6-year contract. And John Lynch has been under a lot of scrutiny, man. You go on Twitter and you'll see people, you see both sides of the fence on Twitter, right? You'll see people saying he's a good guy. He's been doing this. He's been doing that. You see a lot of people saying, man, look at how horrible we've been. Look at how bad this team is. So, I'm even guilty of saying, other than DeForest Buckner, who else on that defense do you think is a long-term key here? I think I asked that, maybe just last night, and that kind of makes it sound like John Lynch hasn't been doing his due diligence. He hasn't been drafting the right guys or more than the draft, acquiring the right free agents. And a quick synopsis, Nick, before we dive into it, what do you think of the GM? What do you think about general manager, just in general, man?
In general, I was always a big fan of the hire. If you can remember, I think I was a guest on 49ers Gab when we hired him. You were running the 49ers Gab podcast, and it was me and I think Tony on there, and I was like super excited. I think it was with 49ers Gab. It might have been with Nothing But Niners. I don't remember correctly, but I was always high on this hire because one, he was a player's coach basically. He played in the system, played in the NFL, not the system, but played in the NFL. And he knew the go-arounds. And what I liked about it was we were thinking outside the box. It wasn't the normal, hire that we were getting, somebody that was such and such here or over there for a few years. It was somebody that was new. It was a fresh start. And then the news broke that Kyle Shanahan wanted him here. And then we hired Kyle Shanahan, obviously, after the whole Super Bowl stuff that was going on or whatever. But overall, man, I was excited about it. After his first draft, I was the first couple picks I was like really excited about. I'm like, damn, this guy really knows what he's doing. And then it got, it was average, right? So, and we'll go over the draft picks and stuff like that. But overall, I was excited. Now, then you fast forward to a year after. Yeah, the team didn't do that well. We still picked high in 18. And I'm like, okay, well, John Lynch is going to have a great draft again because he had a decent draft the year before. Well, not so much good the next year. Quick synopsis, but like I said, we'll get into that. And then overall, now I think he takes a lot of heat, and there's a lot of things that he does behind closed doors that doesn't get recognized. So, and we'll talk about that. But overall, I mean, I think he takes a lot of heat and gets a lot of flail. But I mean, I think he's doing an okay job, and we'll get more into that when we start talking about it.
Yeah, man. And I'll give you my quick synopsis on what I thought originally when we first hired him and everything. I wasn't that big of a fan. I felt like when we hired the GM first, I thought, okay, maybe Jed York is doing what he did with Trent Baalke. We know that there was a separation between there was a separation between the GM and the head coach. And we knew that York was on the side of the GM. So I thought maybe that was happening again. But then when we hired Lynch on January 30th, and then the next day they had Adam Peters as the vice president of player personnel. And then they had to wait until after the Super Bowl when Kyle Shanahan was available, and they announced him on the 6th. When I found out how quickly they did all that, I knew right away that they wanted Shanahan more than Lynch. At least this is how I felt. So I felt like that maybe John Lynch came in to be a yes man. I'm going to be honest with you. I felt like that they wanted Kyle Shanahan really bad. And, they wanted to get him someone that, you go out and you get an established GM from another team or a former GM, someone who has all the accolades already and things with their title and all. It's going to be a little bit harder for an offensive-minded head coach to persuade him to make the picks and choices that he wants. You know what I mean? And pick up the free agents and things like that. And so I thought that this was a yes man move. I really did. But I'm starting to think a little different about John Lynch. I really do think this was a sincere partnership. So we're going to dive into that now. I had the transaction list pulled up here, and we're going to talk about this from the day the 49ers hired him. And we're going to just break this thing down. We're going to go back to 2017. That's when it all happened. All right. So anything you want to say before we jump into it?
No, man, I'm excited. I agree with your points, and I'm excited to get into this.
All right. So, by the way, all the respect to John Lynch, the player. Everything else, like what you said, I agree with all that stuff. But specifically with hiring him with the GM, that's what I felt like he was here to be maybe more of a yes man. So I didn't want to take anything away from him being a player and all that. I was just focused on, his duties as a general manager. So again, he was hired on the 30th of January. And following that, they announced Adam Peters for vice president of player personnel. I know that Adam Peters came over from Denver, and Adam Peters was getting a lot of general manager looks that offseason. There were a lot. He was the talk of the town. People wanted him. They were really, really high on Adam Peters. And, it's kind of strange if we reflect on it now. Denver's fortunes have kind of turned around since then. And now people are questioning how good of a general manager John Elway is. It's kind of crazy that, you go from one place to another and you see the other place, it's starting to hit the fan over there. But what this move told me more importantly than, how much they valued Adam Peters was that they had this in motion before. They just couldn't make certain announcements right away. And so when you see Lynch hired on day one, and then day two, Adam Peters is brought in with a very specific job title. You know what I mean? Vice president of player personnel. Well, who was the president of player personnel? Did we keep somebody? You know what I mean? Like, these are the things that were standing out to me. Your thoughts on the Adam Peters hire?
I could be in agreement with you on the Adam Peters hire because, like you said, he was getting all this love to be a general manager elsewhere, and he chose to come down. And I think at first when this hire was on, I was thinking, I think you were kind of thinking like this too, but I'm not quite sure. But okay, so if John Lynch fails, we got Adam Peters who can step right in. And that's kind of how I was feeling about it. So it was kind of like, okay, we took a first-year GM who's never been a GM before, but we also took a guy who's been a general manager before. And if John Lynch fails, then we have this backup plan with Adam Peters. So I really like that hiring. Also because of the fact that you saw what he did in Denver. You saw that he was a decent general manager. And it kind of makes you go back and think, okay, well, why wasn't he hired as a general manager and John Lynch come in as vice president of personnel or things like that? But it was flip-flopped. And I like the outside of the box thinking because of the fact that John Lynch is a great football mind. And we'll talk about draft and his eye for players and prospects and things like that. But overall, man, I really like the Adam Peters hiring because, like I said, I thought it was a A+ backup point. And not only that, but I think I was also thinking, like, what's this going to cause in the front office as well? Like, is John Lynch going to be worried about Adam Peters stepping on his toes and taking over, or are they going to work together? And from what I've seen, they work hand in hand now. So, this entire front office works hand in hand. So I give the Adam Peters a hire an A. Like, I mean, there's no really bad way to go about that because, like I said, if John Lynch failed, you got Adam Peters there. And if John Lynch doesn't fail, or to make him into a better GM, you have Adam Peters teaching him and helping him along the way as well.
I often question why that move happened the way it did and not the other way around, just like you said. And what I settled on was that John Lynch was young, charismatic, not that Adam Peters isn't, but John Lynch had a lot of relationships coming from the broadcast booth, preparing for games over the years that he was doing that. He literally would sit in on meetings and things like that. And he got to make, whether they were strong relationships or not, there were relationships with these different front office guys. And you can see how cordial he is with these guys. I mean, you tell me another person that has picked up the phone and talked to Belichick and said, hey, what's it going to cost to get Brady? Even in a joking manner. Bill Belichick is looked at as like some like demigod here on earth. You know what I mean? And like he doesn't joke. The people look at him as if he doesn't have a sense of humor. He's very dry and to the point and someone that you don't want to offend or piss off. And here's John Lynch saying, hey, can we get Jimmy Garoppolo? He's like, no, the compensation is going to be too much. We're not going to move him. All right, but what about Tom? I mean, come on. Like that's the charisma. I think that's what they were looking for. They wanted a little bit more personality. Not that they didn't have faith that Peters could do it, but I think that's what they were looking for. They wanted to bring the Niners organization back on a humane level, so to speak. So let's keep this thing moving here. So they went from the 30th to Lynch, 31st to Adam Peters, the 6th. They announced Kyle Shanahan. And I remember this week of waiting and waiting and waiting. And I knew it. I knew it was Kyle Shanahan. I felt it in my soul when we watched the Falcons demolish the Seahawks in the playoffs. I knew then that's the one I want. If Jed York is out there and you're watching, if you're listening, that was the guy we need, Jed. Get him. Look at what he just did. We played him twice a year. Get that guy right there. And I was happy that it happened. I remember that week going on, and I was really excited about it. So my question to you is this, Nick, and I want you to be as honest as possible. Do you think that our GM, who was hired first by Jed York and, the 49ers trust, actually made a decision to hire Kyle Shanahan? Or do you think that they were a package deal?
I think they were a package deal. I think we already knew we were hiring Kyle Shanahan, and Kyle Shanahan wanted John Lynch. I think that talks probably went about hiring John Lynch as a general manager, because we all know that the general manager started way before the head coach, and the hiring process started before the head coach, but the hiring itself started before the head coach. So I think it was kind of, I don't want to say it was a package deal, like, okay, well, if you hire me, I want John Lynch here. But I think it was, hey, Kyle, this is what we're thinking. This is who we're thinking about bringing in. And, how is your relationship? Blah, blah, blah. Do you think you guys could work together, such and such? And he was like, yes, that's who I want. I think that Kyle Shanahan's voice had an opinion, or was a matter, I guess you could say, in the whole process. I don't want to say that Kyle Shanahan's like, okay, well, I'm only coming if this is this package deal. but this is the guy that I want. And, I'm sure that there were other names brought up, and Kyle Shanahan probably had his opinion in there and saying, okay, I want John Lynch. So I wouldn't say so much a package deal, but I would say that there was an opinion that mattered in that room.
Yeah, they had to come to an agreement to coincide, so to speak. I think that's what it is. So I agree with you there. All right. We're not going to, stay on that too long. The next move on the 9th of February was hiring Martin Mayhew, senior personnel executive. This was an important hire, I think, and I think this is one that John Lynch wanted more than Kyle Shanahan. I think John Lynch wanted I'm doing air quotes here, failed formal general manager to come in there and be there and have someone to lean on that had that experience. Because at the moment, Adam Peters had never been a general manager, and John Lynch hadn't either. So we need someone to lean on. You see it a lot with coaching staffs in particular, where a very young guy or inexperienced guy who becomes a head coach goes out and he gets veteran or older coordinators to work underneath him and people who had been coaches in the past, so that way he has someone to lean on. You think within our division, look at Sean McVay, and immediately he went out and got Wade Phillips. He wanted someone who had been a head coach, someone who's been around the league for years. And, hey, look, let me know how to do this. I'll let you do your thing, but this is what I need you for. I think that's what the Mayhews hire was. And not that I liked what Mayhews did as a general manager, but I liked the move. It's more of a learning curve, I think, and I really like that one. What were your thoughts on the Mayhew hire?
Originally, I was just like, why? Like, he failed as a general manager. Why are we bringing him in here? And it was looking at, he couldn't keep that team together in Detroit. Like, there was always something going on, right? Yeah, Detroit. Yeah. There was always something going on over there. And then when we hired him, I'm like, okay, I like these two with Peters and Lynch and Kyle. But that one kind of threw me off. But going back now, I look at it and I'm like, wow, that was a really good hire. Like, he's not the guy, but he is the guy, I guess you could say, because of what he's doing. But what he's doing now really suits him, and he knows talent. He sees talent. Pretty much all the guys from the top, John Lynch, Kyle Shanahan, Adam Peters, and Martin Mayhew, are all developed. Like, John Lynch has the eyes and the ears of being a player and knowing what to look for in people in locker rooms. Then you have Adam Peters, who knows scouting and things like that. Same thing with Martin Mayhew. He has the background of being a general manager, and I think he was a scouting director at one point. I'd have to look that up, but I'm not quite sure. And then Kyle Shanahan. So there's a little bit of background in each one of those. And John Lynch was in Denver under Mike Shanahan, right? I believe. So at one point when was John Lynch in Denver when Mike Shanahan was coaching there? I think he was. But I'd have to look it up, but I think he was.
I'll pull it up while you're talking. I'll take a look.
Yeah, I think he was there, but I'm not sure. And then, so like I said, going through those, you have a little bit of talent in each different category. And when you put it all together, you would think that it's going to work well. And sometimes when you do that, you get these different types of heads, like Adam Peters wanting to be a GM, Martin Mayhew, oh, well, I've already done this job. Kyle Shanahan as the lower guy because he's never been a head coach. John Lynch, the highest guy, being, oh, I've never been a general manager. I've only been a player. So you would think that would, mixing all them together, you would be like, okay, well, Martin Mayhew and Adam Peters are going to want my job. Like, how am I going to act like that? Or how's things going to work like this? But really, they've come together and each put their talent levels together. And I know it quite hasn't shown really in the draft yet, but there are other behind-the-scenes moves that it takes, whether it's a contract deal that gets done. John Lynch is making himself available to talk trades and talk things like that, and Kyle Shanahan as well. And you heard John Lynch at the meetings, the winter meetings this year, say that him and Kyle talk on an everyday basis, and which is a really big thing for an organization to be running smoothly. or anything to be running smoothly. If me and you didn't talk daily, like our show wouldn't be what it was. So it takes those two minds to put things together. We all come up with different ideas, and things like that. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, I give the hiring way higher than what I did at first because I thought heads were going to mesh or weren't going to mesh.
And to get back to your point, John Lynch was with the Broncos from 2004 to 2007. And at that time, you were right. Mike Shanahan was there, but at football operations, he wasn't a head coach or anything like that, but their paths had crossed.
Okay.
So there was some familiarity there. Yeah.
All right, cool.
All right. So, all right, let's keep this thing moving here. I lost my page. All right, here we go. So now, right after this hire of Mayhew, the 49ers go vigorously at attacking all the different coaching positions. The 10th, the 13th, the 17th. I mean, they were announcing picks, coaching staff. And the reason I'm not going to get onto that, not that I don't think Lynch had a lot to do with it, but I think that it was more of Shanahan and putting together the team that he wanted, right? And Lynch probably made a couple of suggestions, but I'm going to give more credit to the coaching staff, to Kyle Shanahan. All right. And a lot of these people that they brought in here are gone now. And that's something that's also, I find also interesting, that they didn't linger with, all right, let's keep giving them another shot. Let's keep giving them another shot. If they saw that something wasn't working out, they were ready to move. And I really like that. And even down to this year, they made more moves. So we're going to fast forward to February 22nd, the very first player acquisition or news underneath our new general manager, John Lynch. And of course, it's very fitting that it was someone in the secondary. They signed the cornerback Quan Williams to a 1-year deal. All right. On the 22nd, they signed wide receiver DeAndre Carter to a 2-year deal. And on the 25th, they signed nose tackle Earl Mitchell to a 4-year deal. So, Nick, your thoughts on those moves? And this is where we have to start looking at John Lynch as a general manager and the players that he's brought in here.
All right. So
Quan Williams. Oh,
I like the Quan Williams. He's been pretty even keel throughout his career. He hasn't been really a liability, and he hasn't been above or crazy above average, but he plays his position well. DeAndre Carter obviously is no longer here. I think he got injured though, and that's why he wasn't here. Why one of the main reasons why he isn't here, obviously other reasons too. And then Earl Mitchell. I like the Earl Mitchell signing because we needed that. We were trying to attack at that point. Our run defense the year before was atrocious. So it was a move that made sense. So at that point, I gave that a high grade. I'd give it a higher grade because it was a position of need. Obviously, we know Earl Mitchell's no longer on the team now, but there's a few words that stick out to me from John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan before player acquisitions, and this was when they went to meet the coach or state of the franchise or whatever it was, and both of them have said together that this is not going to happen this year. It's not going to happen next year, but it's going to happen. And you see so first year we completely overhauled the roster. The second year we eventually built that roster back up with that first year we built the roster back up. The second year we built it with players that we thought fit this system and the first year. And going into year 3, we're starting to address needs more and more. And you can tell that them together, I really think, truthfully, in my wholeheartedly thinking, that they're right where they want to be. Obviously, they wanted to win more games. But I think they're right where they want to be at the tenure in their contract, if that makes sense. I think that, they have an ultimate goal and they say, okay, we know right here we're going to be, let's just say 10%. And we know at this point we're going to be 25%. And that here we're going to be 50 or 60%. I think they're at that percentage rate that they think that it takes to build an NFL team to continually winning, like have a continued success, not just a 1-year success. So they're building the team for future years of success. So yeah.
No, I get exactly what you're saying, man. I'm gonna focus on the Quan Williams thing really quick because that signing in particular worried me immediately because the secondary coach that we brought over, one of the first hires announced, was from Cleveland.
Cleveland, yeah.
And that's where Quan Williams came from. And I immediately thought, oh man, it's going to be a bunch of familiarity hires. And as we go down the list, we'll see a lot more of those. And I was not happy about it. But I was not happy about it for the wrong reason. So I happily admit that. The DeAndre Carter thing, I always felt that was a camp body. Earl Mitchell was a good signing. I was worried about it being 4 years because of his age, but I overreact to age all the time. You guys know that about me on this show. All right, so I wasn't too upset.
Bro, I hope I don't turn 40 like tomorrow. Thank God it's not tomorrow because I'm just gonna be called an old fart or something. So sorry, it's all good.
You already are. Don't worry, man. But yeah, so I like the Earl Mitchell signing, the DeAndre Carter. I didn't have too many expectations, and then there was the Quan Williams, who showed some promise while in Cleveland. But I'll be honest with you guys, I didn't know much about him before then. I had to go and look him up and do some research and things like that. But it wasn't a bad signing. Again, just the familiarity. Once you find out that the team was hiring guys in the secondary, the secondary coach and the DB's coach. And Jeff Hafley. So then we're going to fast forward. The 27th, they tendered 1-year contracts to exclusive rights free agents, Carl Bradford and Mike Purcell, neither of which ended up making the roster. And March 4th, they signed Jeremy Curley to a 3-year contract extension. Didn't end up making that roster. I'm not going to just say that. What do you think about that? Let's start there. What kind of sign did they tell us where we signed someone to a 3-year deal and then he was gone? He was moved.
You're talking about Curley, right?
Yeah. Jeremy Curley was the 49ers leading wide receiver the year before.
Yeah, and then I think it all shocked us when we got rid of him. I couldn't tell you why I think we got rid of him. Maybe, Curley. I liked Curley. I like Jeremy Curley, but you notice he's gone and he hasn't really done much in the NFL either since he's left the 49ers. But I don't want to say I didn't like it, and I don't want to say that I loved it. I was kind of right in the middle because I didn't know which side of the fence to fall on. So do I fall on the side of the fence where the coaches are there? They signed him to a deal because obviously he was there. He was the leading receiver. Let's sign him to an extension and let me see what he has. And then they bring him in for their coaching staff to evaluate. And then they say, we can move on without this guy. I think I can get somebody better in this position. So I wasn't sure what side of the fence to fall on. Now, do I think it was a bad move looking back now? I would probably say it's 60-40 for me. 60 being I'm not okay with it, 40% being okay with it at that time. But I didn't know what side of the fence to fall on. But then when I started realizing what type of receivers that Kyle Shanahan really looks for, Jeremy Curley didn't fit that mold. So now I understand the move more. But at that point, I was probably 60-40, not sure of what side of fence to go on.
And see, I thought that Curley was going to be a really good fit with Shanahan. I thought that we would get to see him in more open space and see what he could really do. I thought he was a shifty guy who fought through contact and things like that. But it didn't work out. He ended up getting moved to the Jets. But it is what it was. All right, so let me see here. And after the Jeremy Curley 3-year contract extension, they released Antoine Bethea. Was that a surprise to you? They actually released him and Torrey Smith.
Bethea, no. Torrey Smith, I'm going to go with a no also. The reason I say no for those is Antoine Bethea was literally struggling. Like he could not cover from A to B. Torrey Smith was not a route tree runner. So to me, it was more like you could get more from another receiver who can run consistent routes compared to what Torrey Smith ran. Now, don't get me wrong. He could run, other routes, but he wasn't that good at it. So that didn't really throw me off. I thought that was a good move. Antoine Bethea, on the other hand, was like, this guy, he's lost more than a step. He's lost 2 or 3 steps. His coverage is not as good. And when he went to Arizona, I was just like, oh, yes, that's even better for us. You know what I mean? So losing him was not that big for me. I was okay with those moves.
Yeah, I was shocked with the Torrey Smith release only because I thought Shanahan would try to use that speed as a decoy, and then when we turned around and signed Marquise Goodwin, I was like, yeah, see, Torrey Smith would have done that, but he was a little bit taller. And I was thinking, Goodwin's always injured. He's got speed. He's got inconsistent hands. We had that in Torrey Smith. Why get rid of him? He's someone you already know. So I didn't quite understand that move, but that's using hindsight and comparing it to Marquise Goodwin. I didn't understand the move when it happened at the time. Signing Marquise Goodwin further confirmed my confusion about why the move was made. But we'll get to Marquise Goodwin in a little bit. So Curley's gone. No, Curley gets a 3-year deal. Bethea is gone. We knew he was aging. It was time to move on from him. Smith was gone. They also waived Marcus Martin the next day. That was March 8th. I think we all wanted that to happen, right? And then March 9th comes, and the 49ers are going crazy. I am so glad we weren't doing breaking news back then. This day was crazy. So on March 9th, the 49ers, what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to name it all, and I'm going to respond and react to it, and then I'm going to do it for you, and then you can respond and react to everything, okay? So on March 9th, they signed Pierre Garçon to a 5-year deal. Loved the player signing, hated the deal. I felt like he was going to be too old. It didn't make any sense to give him a 5-year deal. They also signed wide receiver Marquise Goodwin to a 2-year deal. Love the signing because I like the speed dynamic and the ability to be a little shifty or whatever, and I love the contract because of his often injured history. We didn't know what we were going to get. Okay, so I really liked the contract more than I actually liked the player. We knew about the untapped potential. We just didn't know how it was going to shake out for us. So I like both of those moves. They signed kicker Robbie Gould to a 2-year deal. Robbie Gould, at the time, his reputation at that time, he had just left the Giants. He was 10 for 10. He only kicked in a couple of games for the Giants. And before that, he had a really bad run out of Chicago. They ran him out of there because he was not having a good year that year. So I was like, oh, man, like they really just picked up any old guy off the street. Little did I know I was wrong. Hindsight really smacked me in the face on that one. But I got no shame in it. When the signing happened, I didn't like it. But, kudos to John Lynch and then for seeing it. We signed Brian Hoyer to a 2-year deal. At the time, we knew that it was coming down between Brian Hoyer and Matt Schaub because they both had the familiarity with Kyle Shanahan's system. I think this is more of a Shanahan pick. But either way, this was a move and transaction that Brian Hoyer. This was a move and transaction that John Lynch did. I not so much that I liked it, but there weren't many other options that offseason either. We also ended up, we'll get to it later. So I liked it, and a 2-year deal didn't keep us tied down to him for any long period of time. Kyle Juszczyk for a 4-year deal. Liked the player signing, hated the contract, still hate the contract. You guys know that already. Logan Paulson to a 1-year deal. I understood the familiarity, didn't like it. He seemed like more of a special teams guy. Not special teams, but like just a niche guy. Like he was, he wasn't going to be out there catching a lot of passes or anything like that. He was really just brought in to be a teacher. We discussed that when we did have our video on all of that. And then also on the 9th was Malcolm Smith to a 5-year deal. Hated the player, hated the contract, and man, I still feel exactly the same way about that move. So that all happened on March 9th. I'm going to run it back to you now so you can react to it all as well. And I'll tell you one by one, and then you can react to it. Or if you remember it all, then you can just run back through it.
No, I definitely don't remember them all. There was like 13 of them, so I don't remember all of them. But
so Garçon to the 5-year deal.
At the point, I liked it because I thought Garçon could bring more to the table as a vet. And I didn't think he was going to be going off the back end like he did. So I liked it. I liked that signing. And it was a team friendly deal. That really was. I mean, you've seen how he got out pretty much now. So at the point, yeah, it was okay.
All right. And Goodwin for a 2-year deal?
I'm with you on this. I like the Goodwin deal because of the speed and what he could do, and I was excited to see more of Marquise Goodwin because Marquise Goodwin wasn't used correctly in Buffalo. He was just usually pin your ears back and take the top off of the defense. And at that point, I thought, okay, well, you know how you do your research on Kyle Shanahan and watching Kyle Shanahan, excuse me, and things like that. And then you go, okay, well, how's Marquise Goodwin going to fit into the system? And you got, if you didn't get excited to think that Marquise Goodwin was going to be something special, maybe out of the slot or things like that, then I'd tell you you'd be lying because I personally like the hiring, the deal. It was a 2-year deal. Now he's got an extension. Obviously, he's had some injuries in his career. But at that point, I like the signing. Still like the signing. I still like Marquise Goodwin.
All right. And then Robbie Gould to a 2-year deal?
This one made me a little nervous at first. And like you said, I remember writing an article, did the 49ers strike gold with gold? Because of who we had here kicking before and how good he was, and to be able to just let him go and bring in a new kicker, I was a little upset about that. And I'm not usually big on, oh, what the hell, like, why didn't we keep this player because he was this good or blah, blah, blah. But at that point, I didn't see what the difference was because I think age was a little bit of a difference, but at the time it wasn't because I was such a fanboy of who we had, but I didn't see us needing to make a move. Like, why change it?
Yeah, 49er fans did love Phil Dawson, though. Like,
Yeah.
he was our guy.
Yeah, and Uncle Phil was a great kicker, but I mean, was I being a fanboy and saying, man, why are we letting him go? He's one of the better kickers in the league, blah, blah, blah. What, why don't we keep him, such and such like that? No, but I was still upset because he did kick well. And I know Levi Stadium is a really hard stadium to kick in because of the way the wind blows and things like that. And you would always hear Phil Dawson talk about, I go out and do the weather report. I do this. I track the wind. I do this. And then thinking like, okay, well, you're bringing in another kicker who's going to have to learn how to do that. We saw how that went with Akers and, so on. But I didn't like the signing at first, but obviously he smacked me in the face, and I'm a huge Robbie Gould fan now.
Get the jersey. Kickers are people too, Nick. All right. Brian Hoyer, 2-year deal.
At the point, I loved the move. I really did. I thought Kyle Shanahan was going to resurge Brian Hoyer's career. And you guys all know that I've been on the show and saying, and I bought into the media hype, which I don't do anymore. I don't do it anymore. But I did at that point, and I was totally wrong. Brian Hoyer, I really thought Brian Hoyer was going to resurge because he had a really good year with Kyle Shanahan before he got hurt. And that's one of the reasons why I was like, man, this guy could really do something in the system if we get him the right talent and such like that. Man, was I wrong. Man, was I wrong. I just jaw me right now because I was completely wrong. But thankfully, he's not here anymore.
All right. Kyle Juszczyk, 4-year deal.
I know you don't like this contract. I like the signing. And
lie to me and tell me you liked it.
I did because there was other people that wanted him, and watching this guy and do everything that he does. And yes, there was probably a little hype up too with the offensive weapon type of talk and stuff like that. But you're also talking free agency, and when there's very minimal fullbacks and players in free agency, you're going to overspend. You're going to overpay to get the guy there. And you heard John Lynch say it costs us in our pockets to get him here, but that's because there was another team that wanted him that bad. And we're going back and forth. So there was a bidding war, basically, for him. Now, am I still as mad at the contract? No, probably not as mad or upset about it as you. Do I 100% like the contract? No. Do I think we could fix it a little bit? Yes, but I also know how much he does in production-wise, productivity-wise, in other aspects of the game. So, yeah. So.
All right. So then what about the Logan Paulson deal. It was only a 1-year deal. With Logan Paulson.
It was like you said, it was a scheme fit. Somebody who knew the system, somebody who could come in here and teach other guys that we bring in. So yeah.
Malcolm Smith to a 5-year deal.
I hated this deal from the beginning.
Let me ask you this, because I think we all hated this one. Do you know anybody who liked this signing? Anybody? Do you know one single person who said this is going to work out well for us? I think this is going to be good.
No. The thing about it is he got paid because he was an MVP of a Super Bowl. He had really, like, how can I say this? He had really good seasons because of what was playing around him that made him better, made him look like he was a better linebacker. But I don't think I could tell you anybody that really liked the signing.
Listen, I understand that he was an MVP Super Bowl. This is what made me step back and look at John Lynch different. This was the start of it. This was the first red flag here. Okay, so I can tell you I didn't like the Kyle Juszczyk signing, but if you listen to
Oh, sorry. I just looked at the chat. TJ Miller says the contract isn't okay, in my opinion, but I do love the player.
Say that again. The contract wasn't okay?
The contract isn't okay in his opinion, but he does love the player.
He must be talking about Juice. I'm assuming he's talking about Juice. Yeah, and that makes sense. Like I'm not against Kyle Juszczyk. So that contract is still bothers me, but whatever. But that's what I was gonna say. You know, the contract bothered me, but Lynch came and he knew the contract was crazy because he addressed it immediately. As a matter of fact, I can't think of many other contracts that were discussed after we signed someone in a free agency. And so he came to the mic and he owned it. He said, look, I know a lot of people are going to look at this contract. They're going to balk at when they see the figures and all. But, when you want someone, you got to pay for it. He addressed it head on. He said, and we also don't see him as just a fullback. We see him as an OW. That's going to be our offensive weapon. He's not going to be just a guy out there running and blocking, and that's it. He's going to do a lot more than that for us, and we can't wait for you guys to see how we deploy him. Like you could hear the enthusiasm in his voice and things like that. And maybe, I don't know, maybe they pictured a larger, workload for Kyle Juszczyk. Maybe we're getting exactly what they pictured, and they value that much. I don't know, but they didn't seem to regret it. And listening to him call him an offensive weapon and all that stuff, it made me feel better in the moment. Now we're reflecting on it, though. I'm back to I still think that's a lot of money. I like Juice. I don't dislike Juice. I just think that's a lot of money. But let's keep this thing moving here. With the Malcolm Smith thing, I asked if you know anyone who liked him. Yes, he did have the Super Bowl MVP thing, but he also went to Oakland and played after that. And we saw how bad he was. Raiders fans hated him.
Well, he led the league in tackles that year. But I'm just saying, like, he couldn't cover, and that was his big thing. There was he couldn't cover. He was a great run defender, but he can't cover.
He was the target on third downs, which helps you lead the league in tackles also. Like when opposing teams are targeting you on my uncle, who's a Raiders fan, you guys have heard me refer to him here on the show before. He laughed at me. He called me laughing. Like you ever say hello and they answer the laughter? That's it, bro. Like when we discuss cat food through text, and then I call you and I'm laughing, like that's what it is. Like that's how bad it was. He was laughing as I said hello. He's like, "Did you see who y'all just saw?" I'm like, "Come on, man, don't call me laughing like that. Come on, man, don't do that." It's like he ain't that bad. I was like, "We're gonna get him back to the Super Bowl days." Like that's all I had left. That's all I had left to say, But whatever,
You got to remember too, the Niners had a ton of money to spend then to get to where they needed to be for cap space, because you still have to get to a number that you can carry over. Like you can't just.
Yeah, they're spending requirements. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So it's not like people could be like, oh, well, why did we spend here? We have 130 million, but okay, we really need to be at 110 million. I don't know what the true numbers are. I'm just throwing numbers out. So don't quote me on those guys, but we need $130 million. We have $130 million. We need to get to 90 million before this date. So we can overspend here, and this is all we're going after. So let's overspend on the players that are hardest to get here.
Yeah. All right, so let's keep this thing moving here. That was it for the 9th. On the 10th, they signed Matt Barkley to a 2-year deal. They signed Brock Coyle to a 1-year deal. Secondary player Don Jones to a 2-year deal, and wide receiver Alden Robinson to a 2-year deal.
That was somebody that Alec Robinson I thought was going to be a lot better here. I really liked that signing. I thought, he was in the. I thought, okay, well, he's being held back because of who was in front of him in Atlanta, and you've seen some big explosive plays from Aldrick, and I'm like, okay, he can be that receiver here, and he just never turned out to be that guy. Don Jones, same thing was. I thought it was a good move because of the fact that we were picking up players that to help with our rush defense, because our rush defense, like I said before, was atrocious. Matt Barkley, I like that pick because I watched, well, when I was living in Jersey before, obviously you watch a lot of the Eagles and you could see him play. I didn't think he was a bad quarterback. I think he just kind of got the wrong end of the straw at sometimes.
He was in the wrong system with Chip, bro.
Right, that's what I mean. Like he was just completely. I thought he got the wrong straw where he was. I thought that I thought he was overall a better quarterback than Brian Hoyer was. Like even when we signed Hoyer, then we picked up Barkley. I really like Barkley, and I thought Hoyer was going to change. And the only reason I stuck with Hoyer was, like I said earlier, was I thought Kyle Shanahan was going to make him
revitalize his career.
Yeah, revitalize. That's the word I was looking for. Perfect word. But Matt Barkley, I really like this signing because watching him, here in Jersey, watching as Eagles and stuff like that, there were times that he came in and played in preseason and such like that, and he did really well. And the same thing when he was a Niner. He came in and played really well in the preseason for what he played. And then I think Barkley's career has just not really gotten that chance to rise. It's not like a Nick Foles career, you know what I mean? Where an injury happens, he comes in and he takes your team and goes somewhere. But I thought he was a half decent backup quarterback, and I would take him still to this day. If Nick Mullins wasn't here, I would use him as a backup to Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah, I was actually excited to see what Shanahan could do with him. I'm not gonna lie. So that was pretty cool to me. All right, so we're gonna keep this thing moving here. Oh, Brock Coyle. What do you think about the Brock Coyle signing?
At first, I thought he was just going to be a special teams guy. I thought he was going to come in and be a special teams guy. And then I'm like, okay, what his familiarity with Malcolm Smith, is that a reason he's here? And then obviously he was familiar with the system, the defense that Seattle runs, the same as the Niners. But I thought Brock Coyle was underrated. And you guys can go back to many shows you want, and I've always been a big Brock Coyle supporter, because I thought he wasn't the best linebacker on the field, but he tried to play like one. Like he gave 100% every time he was out there. I think there's a couple times maybe he was, missed a tackle here or there, but it wasn't like looking at somebody like, oh my God, this guy has no idea what's going on the field right now.
Yeah. So. Yeah, with Brock Coyle. All right, so here was the second red flag for me. 2 Seattle linebackers in 2 days. I already felt this Seattle crush coming from John Lynch, and I still harp on that to this day. So I felt it coming here. Brock Coyle, I believe, was originally signed to be a special teams guy, but then we ended up losing Malcolm Smith for the season. We ended up losing. There was another linebacker that got injured this offseason. I think it'll be in the transactions here. Maybe not. But there was another linebacker, and he got forced into playing. Reuben Foster was injured early. And so that's what it was. He got forced to playing. We got rid of Bowman, and that pushed him into the spotlight more. Also, he was forced to get out there and play more. And like you said, it's not that he was bad, which he was sometimes, but it wasn't bad due to lack of effort. You could tell that he was just a step too slow. He knew what to do. He just couldn't do it fast enough. So, that's what it is. You see the effort and everything, and you appreciate it from him. He just wasn't the athlete that we needed him to be out there. All right. So March 15th, we traded for Jeremy Zuttah. this move, we traded for Jeremy Zuta with the Ravens. We gave them a 6th-round draft pick in exchange for. Oh wait, we got Zuta and a 6th from the Ravens, and we gave a 7th. So we got a pick and a player, and all we gave was a 7th. Am I reading that right?
Yeah, that's what it was. We got a 6th and we got the player, and then we gave up a 7th.
Oh, they moved up with us.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was a swap.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
we had the 6th round. They wanted the 6th-round pick. We gave them the 6th-round pick, but we took Zuta. And okay.
And a 7th.
Yeah. Okay. So to me, this was a favor. I don't know a favor for who, but this is what this move felt like at the time. Why do we want this guy? And I remember people hyping up the Zuta pick. We thought he was going to do something, but he was coming off an injury or something like that. It was something weird.
Well, no, the year before he had made the Pro Bowl. He was a Pro Bowl offensive lineman.
Yeah, but something happened to him, and did he get injured that year? Something happened.
No, somebody just beat him out, and then we cut him. I think I forget who it was that beat him out. But the hype was real for him because it's like, oh shit, like we just got this guy. He was a Pro Bowl. He's a Pro Bowl offensive lineman. Blah blah blah. For only swapping picks for 6th to 7th, then we got a player.
You know what? You're right. And at the time, everyone was hype about it. As a matter of fact, they thought this was a great move. This was John Lynch's first trade, as far as manipulating draft picks. This was his first trade, and people were really hype about it. And we continue to see that to this day, the manipulation of draft picks and how he uses them. And that's one thing that I will credit John Lynch with. He's not afraid to use those things. He's not afraid to move them around and exchange as a currency. So I really like that from John Lynch. And this was, like they said, the first time that we got to see something like that going down. I really like that. All right. On the 16th, they re-signed defensive lineman Chris Jones to a 1-year deal. On the 17th, they signed Dakota Watson to a 3-year deal. And on the 28th, they re-signed DeJuan Harris to another 1-year deal.
Man, I miss DeJuan Harris.
As do I, man.
I love DeJuan Harris.
I thought he would have been a great fit here with Shane. Everybody, I thought DeJuan Harris, Jeremy Curley,
even Ray Armstrong.
Ray Armstrong.
Yeah, I think he would have been a good fit too, because he's like a Fred Warner. He flies all over the place.
Mm-hmm. Yep, he's got a lot of fire about him too. He's just a knucklehead. So. As far I'm talking about on the field, I mean, not in real life. I don't know him personally. I don't know of him having any off-field issues, but so yeah, that was that. Your thoughts on those moves? Defensive lineman Chris Jones. I remember him showing some promise. He was flashing sometimes, but we couldn't really feel him out.
Wasn't he the baby? They called him. They called him some kind of nickname with baby in it. The players did.
Well, I don't know.
Because he ended up getting that 1 interception in a preseason game as a defensive lineman. And I forget what they called him. But he was young, too, at the time, Chris Jones. He was really young. He was probably only, 24?
It doesn't say age in here.
So, all right. So I like that signing. I didn't like the cutting of him. I thought he could have been something special because of his age. But, man, I wish I knew what they call him, because then you would understand what I was saying. Who was the next guy?
Dakota Watson to a 3-year deal. This one, for me, I felt a little iffy about. I was like, this guy's a special teamers, and look at his age, and we're giving him a 3-year deal. Then I still feel that way about him, but this guy just keeps going, man. He's a 9-year veteran, and he doesn't slow down.
I feel totally different about 3-year deals. Ever since we talked to Eric Crocker about 3-year deals. He's like, that's just like, it doesn't matter if it's a 1-year or a 3-year deal. You still have like the same stipulations of being cut. So if you remember that conversation we had with him, but to me, a 3-year deal is just like, I've seen so many people that got 3-year extensions, Curly, Dakota Watson, or other players that have had 3-year extensions, and the next year they're cut. So it's just a matter of how the contract is. But Dakota Watson, I really think this DeMontre Moore guy that we just signed is going to battle Dakota Watson for that type of position on the field. at the time. The only problem is Dakota's not that bad when he has to cover. He's really not that bad. I don't see Demontre Moore being a good cover guy if he has to cover, but I I'm not I don't hate I don't hate Dakota Watson, but I don't love him either. It's just he's there, and if he needs to fill in, I'm okay with that.
I tell you what, his first game back, he came back kicking ass this year.
Oh, he was balling.
Yeah, yeah, and you could tell he had the freshest legs of anybody on the field. He was out there with fire and vigor, man. I loved it. He earned a special spot in my heart. It could help that my hate against for the Raiders is, up there. So it was good to see him out there doing it against them too. So, the next one, I hated this signing. Oh my God, I hated this one. April 4th, Tim Hightower to a 1-year deal.
I love the signing.
Oh, I know. I remember. And I remember making bets that this guy wasn't going to make the team, and everyone thought I was crazy. Everyone called me crazy for this one.
He should have made this team.
No, he should.
He should have. He really should have.
No, he should have. He didn't look good in preseason. There was no reason for him to make this team. There was no reason for him to make the team.
But for what we could have got from him, I just think I don't know. I like the signing. I thought he was going to fit in the system perfectly. The only thing that was a concern was his age. I think he was 31 at the time when we signed him.
Wasn't he coming off of an injury too, or something like that?
I don't recall. I'd be lying if I said yes, and I'd be lying if I said no because I don't really remember. But I thought that this was an interesting signing. I thought, I think, like just the way he plays the game, like Tim Hightower. Like I love that about him. Like he had so much passion and energy, but it didn't end up working out. I ended up losing the bet that he didn't make the team.
Which, by the way,
he got injured and got cut. He didn't get cut healthy. He got injured and cut.
That's not true, bro.
That is true.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is true.
Not. He didn't make this team, bro, because he wasn't good enough for the team.
Who was the other guys on this team at that time? I'm trying to think.
DeJuan Harris was still here. Carlos Hyde was still here. And Matt Breida was here. We haven't got that far yet, but he was a free agent, undrafted free agent. You're gonna make me scroll through here. Joe Williams was also here. Capri Bibbs was also here.
That was another guy that came from Baltimore, right? That was a trade
from Denver.
Oh, Denver, I meant. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. I think that was it as far as running back. Oh, Mike Davis was here. Mike Davis is also still on the roster when we got him.
Okay.
But yeah, so we're getting ahead of ourselves. But yeah, so either way, I mean,
out of all those, Tim Hightower is the best catching back. Before you knew what Breida was.
So, Breida didn't have good hands his first season anyway.
Right, but I'm just saying, like, he was the prototypical type of back that Kyle Shanahan wanted. Somebody to be able to catch the ball. Carlos Hyde couldn't catch out of the backfield.
I saw Tim Hightower again in the Cardinals. I believe he was with the Cardinals before he came to us, and I did not like him. Didn't like him. I don't know. It doesn't matter. But I mean, this was a John Lynch thing, and I get it. Like they want fits. You could see them looking for fits, and that's what we grew to appreciate, right? So John Lynch, he's been okay so far throughout these acquisitions. You know what I mean? He's been doing an all right job. This move here I really liked, and the guy went nowhere. Jason DeMonchi to a 1-year deal, and then the same time we released Tremaine Brock. Remember that Brock got like a sniffing of trouble, and they were like, "Poof, gone. See you right away." Like they didn't wait for the case. There was no due process. None of that. Like the accusations came out, and Tremaine Brock was gone, and everyone's like, "Oh, they made an example out of him. They made an example out of him." And then we'll get to Reuben Foster later.
That is probably only one of the times I was ever happy that a 49er got in trouble to where he was going. Because, I mean, I did not like Tremaine Brock. Like, I did not like Brock at all. I thought it was an exciting, like, okay, yes, this dude's in trouble. Oh, cut his ass. And they did. And I was, like, so happy.
They didn't wait. And the reason I like Jason DeMonchi is because he's from Trenton, New Jersey. You guys remember that. I made a big deal of it. You guys know how I am about my Jersey guys, so I was holding it down for him, but he didn't make much noise. All right. Another red flag is right here. April 19th, we signed offensive lineman Gary Gilliam to a 1-year deal. It's fucking stupid. It was never a good idea. It didn't make any sense.
Well, I think it made sense to filling out the roster.
No, it didn't. No, it didn't. The guy was the worst offensive lineman on a team that had the worst offensive line in the NFL. It made no sense to pick him up. There's no. This was John Lynch loves Seattle. This is why he's the reason for it. This guy right here, he is the reason for it. He is the reason I feel like John Lynch sees former Seahawk. Oh, I want him. That's how I feel about it. But I'll move on.
Move on.
All right. So now we get to the draft. All right, April 27th. No more transactions after that. So I get to stew for over a week on the signing of Gary Gilliam, and then the NFL draft comes. Okay. So we traded our first round pick, number 2, to Chicago for their first round pick, number 3, and their third round pick, 67, and their fourth round pick, 111, and their third round pick in 2018. And we selected Solomon Thomas with the third pick. We got a haul to move one spot, and they still got the guy that they wanted. So there's 2 things to discuss with this, okay? One was the manipulation of the draft picks. A+, do we both agree?
Yes.
All right. Because you
yeah.
All right. Yeah. So
I'm just sitting here like about to start drooling what we could get for the second overall pick this year with what we just got from moving down one spot. What we could literally get. Literally, if I'm John Lynch, if you're not giving me 2 first-round picks or a first, a high second, a third, and maybe a fourth, I'm not even picking up the phone this year. But yeah, I'm like sitting here drooling like I'm staring at pineapple pizza or something. Like,
what, you like pineapple pizza?
I do. I like pineapple and ham pizza.
I knew there was something about you, Nick. I knew there was something about you. All right, now it makes sense. You pineapple pizza eating. All right, but yeah, we got a haul. 2 third-round picks, a 4th-round pick, and they're and just to move back one spot. That's very good to still get the guy you want. Now we're going to talk about the guy, Solomon Thomas. I hated the move when it happened. We were doing a we were
doing live, yeah.
This is the draft that I was at. This was in Philly.
Yeah, this was our very first draft.
I was furious about this. Nick, I hated this signing. I was mad that I was out there and waited for this to happen. And I don't know if you remember, throughout the day we were doing the live video.
Mm-hmm.
And I was interviewing random faithfuls that were showing up out there and asking them what they thought. And there weren't many people who were high on Solomon Thomas. I found one guy. I did find one guy that liked the Solomon Thomas thing. I'm talking about before we drafted him, because that was the rumor. That was the word around town that we were going to get him.
I gotta dig those videos up with your bucket hat on.
Did we post any of them?
I don't know.
Oh man, there's a lot of pictures. I got to meet some really cool people out there, man. Some former players and all that stuff. It was a lot of fun.
Now let me ask you a question, and answer this honestly. Did you hate the pick because of the player, or did you hate the pick because of what we passed up on?
I'm never we passed up on anything. I didn't think Solomon Thomas was a fit. He was a tweener, and I honestly felt like John Lynch drafted him and liked him more because he knew him from that fucking class that they had together. I'm
John Lynch is banned from all college classes at Stanford for now.
I swear, I'm being completely honest with you. I feel like that moved him up in his mind. I'm just saying, like, I really think he liked him more because of that little bit of familiarity, and it pissed me off, and it made me not trust John Lynch's judgment. I'm not kidding. Everyone, go watch the North Carolina tape. Watch what he did to Mitch Trubisky. And I'm watching the tape, and I'm seeing the numbers. I'm seeing the stats. I'm seeing a guy quitting, and no one's talking about it in the same film. The play goes to the left, and he's on the right. He was like, yeah, okay, that's not for me. He wasn't running down people from behind or anything like that. Like, and this was the highlight film that people wanted us to see about this guy. And then we get him and we move him somewhere else. Oh, it was bad from the beginning. And this is not someone. I'm little time out here. This whole comment is in parentheses, just something I'm thinking right now. You don't pass up on the Quentin Williams because you got Solomon Thomas. I'm just going to say that now. I'm not saying that's who we're going for in the draft. I'm just saying Solomon Thomas cannot be the reason you don't get a Quentin Williams. Okay, I'm back. Your thoughts on the pick now, the player and the pick.
Obviously, I didn't like the pick there, but it's for a different reason. I just thought there was other talent there that we could have used besides Solomon Thomas. It wasn't so much I hated Solomon Thomas in college, or that I didn't think he could have the potential of being a decent player. It was just because of where we were at. We obviously traded down, and we still could have got a top 3 guy in that draft, and we passed up on guys that we could still be using right now.
Who went number 1 that year?
Trubisky went 2. Damn, I forget who went 1 that year.
I can't remember.
I can't remember either. But I mean, I would have picked that was the year Derwin James came out, right? Derwin James, Jamal Adams came out that year too, right? There was just a ton of talent on the board over Solomon Thomas. Who was the other edge rusher? Oh, that was the year. That was the year Myles Garrett came out.
He went. Oh, okay. I wonder if they had their eyes set on Myles Garrett, and then since he was off the board, let's trade back and figure something else out.
Could have possibly been.
Because I'm looking at the top 10 here. It's Myles Garrett, Mitch Trubisky, Solomon Thomas, Leonard Fournette, Corey Davis, Jamal Adams, Mike Williams, Christian McCaffrey, John Ross, and Patrick Mahomes. Those are the top 10. Only three defensive ends in the top 15. No, top 20, because Jonathan Allen went 17.
I liked him too.
Oh, Derek Barnett. Derek Barnett was my guy that year.
Yeah, Derek Barnett was there. Jonathan Allen was there. There was just a ton of guys. Jamal Adams, Derwin James. There was just so much more talent that I thought we could have got, and we still could have went defensive edge, later in the draft. When did Jamal?
I don't think Derwin James was that draft year. I think you're thinking about last year. The safety that went was Jabril Peppers.
Oh, Jabril Peppers. That's what I'm thinking.
And then Malik Hooker. Malik Hooker were the safeties. Jamal Adams was the other one. But Derwin James was last year.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking Jamal Adams.
Yeah.
My bad.
But yeah, I'm not, I'm not one of those guys that say, oh, we look at this, we passed up on this guy to get him. And, although it does happen, yes, I don't do that because you can say that about pretty much every team, about every guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I mean, I'm just saying by tape evaluation, I thought there was better guys. You never know who's going to pan out in the NFL. You don't rate or grade that way. But through watching tape, there was a lot more talented guys on the board at number 3 overall. That's like this year. If we come out this year and we take an offensive lineman, how pissed off are you going to be?
Offensive lineman?
Yeah. If with the number 2 pick.
Oh, with the number 2 pick, yeah, I would be tight.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. So if he came out this year, it's kind of the same as that year. There was other players that we could have addressed that would have had a bigger and faster impact than Solomon Thomas just by watching tape in college. And we passed up on that. So if we came out this year and passed up on a Nick Bosa or Quentin Williams and took an offensive lineman, I'd probably be on suicide watch, truthfully.
Ooh, come on, bro.
Not really, but I'm just saying.
All right, now let's keep this thing moving here. By the way, guys, this is going to be a 2-part thing here. We're not going to run through all of John Lynch's transactions for the last 2 years. We're going to finish this up. We're probably going to take this all the way down to we'll see if we can get to the end of the football year. If not, we'll see how we are when we get to week 1 of the football year. And
we could just finish up the draft.
You just want to finish up the draft? Okay. All right. So then let's finish up the draft then. And then we'll make this a couple of parts then. Maybe we'll make it more than 2 parts. All right. Maybe we can make this a 3 or 4 part series leading up to the draft, evaluating John Lynch into the draft. That's a good thing. All right. So let me get back to where we were. So now Solomon Thomas, hate it, love it. It happened. I honestly, sincerely hope this guy just explodes into the league this year. And I will say this: if there's ever a time that he's going to have a chance to do it, it is this year with D Ford, DeForest Buckner, and assuming we get Nick Bosa, there's no excuse for this guy anymore. None at all. He's going to be getting one-on-ones all day long. You can't do it now, Solomon.
I mean, to give the kid some credit, he did start playing better towards the end of the year.
Yeah, but better than bad is still not good.
This is true. This is very true.
That's all I'm saying. That's all. I want him to do well. And I understand what he had going on in his personal life, and I never ever bypass something like that. That's not. I don't make light of anything like that. But I do want to see him do better on the football field. His career depends on it. It does.
Yeah, it really does, and I can agree with you on that. Overall, so from A to F, what would you give that signing at that point?
Just Solomon Thomas?
Yeah, just Solomon Thomas.
An F. I love the trade. I like the compensation we got, and more importantly, I like what we did with the compensation, which I'll talk about when we got Reuben Foster. I like what we did with the compensation. A+ for all of that. But the player itself, F. I was so against it. I was so against it, man. I was like adamant. That's the one thing I didn't want to happen.
I gave it a D only because it was a need that we needed, but there were, like I said earlier, there was other chances to get other needs. So at that point in us drafting, we were drafting for a need. Obviously,
but he didn't fit a need. Well, he was into. Never mind.
He was interior. Yeah, he was
right.
Interior, but we were trying to create him as a need. So it's the same as if we took. It's the same as this year if we took a Josh Allen. It's the same situation. Now, two different total players. Don't get wrong, but one plays a different position than what he's going to be saying to play. That's what scares me the most about that whole situation. But I give it a D. D. I mean, I'm okay with an F as well. Obviously, at that point. But like you said, A+ obviously on the trade.
Yeah. And now we're going to get to what he did with the compensation. So you have to remember that he got pick 67. He got pick 3, 67, 111, and then a 2018 third rounder. All right. So we're not back on the board until at this point, we're not back on the board until pick 34. 67. No, 34 in the second round. That would have been the 49ers' next pick. But John Lynch struck again. He traded our second round pick, number 34 overall, and the fourth round pick, 111, which we had just got from Chicago. And he gave that to Seattle for their 31st overall pick. Now, the trade happens. I see the doom, 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 and I was like, oh my God, we're back on the board. We're back on the board. What's happening? And we had watched Reuben Foster fall all night long.
We were literally talking about it live all night long throughout the draft. And we're like, we got to be taking Foster here. It was one of the most exciting days as a Niner fan. And if you wanted to watch that video, check it out in our video links and look at our reactions to the Reuben Foster signing. So, draft.
We look like idiots now because it was Reuben Foster. But at the time, in the moment, it was freaking amazing. It was
But the player's ability it doesn't make us look stupid.
Right.
It's just the player's personality is what messed that all up.
Yeah. But I like how Lynch took what he had just acquired from the Bears and flipped that. So, all right, we want to move up to get him. He's 4 picks away from us. He's 4 picks away, but we don't know if he's going to be there.
And Green Bay was going to take him.
Yeah, he was on New Orleans.
Or New Orleans. I'm sorry.
On the phone with the Saints when Lynch called him. It's crazy. All right. So here's something else. So now I love the pick. I mean, no, I did. I love the pick. I love the trade. What I didn't like about all this, you're going to think I'm crazy, is that it happened to be Seattle. I swear John Lynch loves Seattle. I swear he loves Seattle, and they love him too. That's the only thing that I didn't like about it, but whatever. You had to move up to get him because New Orleans is going to grab him if you didn't do it. So, I accept it. I respect it, and I liked it. I really did like it. The Seattle thing is more of a joke, guys. Trust me. If Seattle's willing to wheel and deal with a division rival, hey, stupid on their part, right? Well, kind of hit us back in the face, but whatever. So, you agree? Anything you want to add to that?
No, I mean that was an A+ grade for me.
All right. The next day 2 of the draft starts on the 28th. And with the third round selection, number 66 overall, the 49ers take Ahkello Witherspoon.
I gave this a B plus grade. I thought that, like, at the time, like going back and watching film on him, I thought it was a need. We addressed the need. It was probably a little high for him at the time, but I can remember being okay excited about it because I thought so far our first 2 picks were the Reuben Foster pick really hyped me up, and then the third pick I was like, okay, we got a DB. Like, we need that. Like, that's a need. He probably put on a little bit more weight. He's really frail, but I think that's what he could build on in the NFL. And I thought I saw the talent level there. So watching the tape, I remember being okay. I would give it a B.
I'm excited to see Ahkello come back this year. I remember when it happened, and I didn't feel like excited about it, but I wasn't nervous about it either. I was like, if he's taught the right way, he'll be okay. That's just how I felt.
Yeah,
So,
it wasn't. I literally think it was a B. Like I said, a B, maybe a C. But I would give it probably a B minus.
yeah, low B, high C. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm there with you. But I liked it. You know what I mean? So it wasn't a bad thing. It says now we were supposed to be picking 66 and 67th, but we traded third round pick 67 to New Orleans for their 7th round pick, number 229, and their 2nd round pick in 2018. All right. That's what it says. I guess is that what we did to get Ahkello?
No, that's what we did to get CJ.
Oh, that's what we did to get fucking there's a lot to this trade. I never looked at this. Is this right? All right, let me look at this again. Traded third round pick 67. That doesn't make this doesn't make any sense. This what I'm reading is wrong. We didn't pick back to back. We didn't pick Ahkello Witherspoon and CJ Beathard back to back.
No.
Ahkello Witherspoon was 66 overall. What I'm looking at here says
CJ Beathard was 104 overall.
Right. But it says traded pick 67 to New Orleans for their 7th round pick, which was 229, and their 2nd round pick in 2018. Traded 4th round pick 109 and 7th round pick 219 to Minnesota for their 3rd round pick 104, and selected CJ Beathard. So they added a bunch of extra stuff here. Okay, so my apologies, guys. What we traded was our 4th round pick 109 and 7th round pick 219 to the Vikings for their 3rd round pick of 104. And with that, we got CJ Beathard.
Right.
Hated it.
Yeah, I literally gave it a D. And the reason I gave it a D was not because of CJ Beathard, but because Iowa was not a throwing team at the time. They were more of a run heavy team at the time. And now you notice Iowa has the 2 best tight ends coming out, and they're a hell of a fire, like a hell of throwing team now. And you wonder why? Because CJ Beathard was their quarterback before. They couldn't throw the football. So, I literally gave this a D, and it wasn't because of it wasn't because of the player. It was because of the fact of we traded to get a quarterback who played in a system who barely threw the football.
Yeah, we traded up to get a tackling dummy. Let's be honest. I mean, that's what it was. Not that.
Well, really, we traded back, and then traded up because we traded a 67th.
No, that wasn't real. That's not. That shouldn't have been in here. We didn't pick back to back.
Yeah, but we should have. We had the 67th pick overall. We had the 66th and the 67th. So where did the 67th pick go?
I don't think we had that.
Yeah, because we got that. We got that from Chicago.
Oh shit.
We originally had 66, and we got the 67th pick. So we were supposed to pick round 3, pick 2, and pick 3. We traded that pick somewhere, and then ended up coming back up in round 3 at 104.
So what the hell do we do with that pick?
I don't know. That's what I'm asking. Like, because I know we got that pick from Chicago.
So New Orleans took it. Oh, okay. That's right. New Orleans took the 67th pick, but we got a second round pick in 2018 with it.
Right. Okay. So we traded the 67th pick to get moved back at 31, to move back to 31 in the first with New Orleans, with Seattle. Why did New Orleans take the pick?
This was, I guess they wanted to pick 67th. I don't know. Okay, yeah. You're right. Traded third round pick 67 to New Orleans for their seventh round pick and their second round pick in 2018. So we completely moved out of that round. We had our third round guy
because we already had one. We still kept the
Right.
second round pick. Okay,
Right.
yeah.
So we got a second round pick for the following year. That's what happened. Okay. Right. So then we traded up to get CJ Beathard. Right.
Yeah, because we traded back into the third once after we picked. We traded back into the third at 104, which was 40th. The 40 round 3 40 104. Yeah, pick 104.
Right. Right. Now what I didn't like about this is that I had to like Google who CJ Beathard was when this was happening. And I did Twitter searches to find out who this guy was. And he was looked at as like unanimously being an undrafted free agent. And we traded up to get him. Not that we stood pat. We traded up to get him. And then I'm going to use hindsight because I'm allowed to do that. We're judging John Lynch now. Then we hear that Shanahan told Lynch, you don't have to do that. We can get him later. And Lynch insisted on doing it.
Yeah. John Lynch even came out and said Shanahan told me not to go and trade up. And I figured he'd sleep better if I just went up and got his quarterback.
So what this tells me is that John Lynch messed up. I think Shanahan and Lynch had some kind of deal. And Shanahan used 3 picks in a row on defensive players. Solomon Thomas, Reuben Foster, and Ahkello Witherspoon. And he felt like he needed to make it up to his head coach. That's what I thought. So I wasn't all, okay, John Lynch, man, I like the moves you make when we're getting stuff. I don't like what you're doing in other times. So I was so split on John Lynch, man. I didn't know how to feel about this dude at all.
Bro, like I said, when I Googled him and started watching film, I'm like, we traded up to get a quarterback who doesn't throw the football.
Yeah.
Is this Little Giants or what? Like, what's going on here?
Come on, man. Don't be hating on Icebox now, bro.
Yeah, Icebox was a shit. I like the sniffle dude too, though. The bubble boy.
I'm my man with the stickum, the baby Jerry.
Yeah,
Rice.
he was like.
All right, let me stop. All right, here we go. Traded 4th round pick 2018 to Denver for Capri Bibbs. Just randomly did it. Just next year's draft, 4th round pick. Let me get your running back. Just randomly did it. Who never did anything for the 49ers.
I was actually excited about that trade, truthfully, because it was another running back that I thought would fit Kyle's system. He was fast. I think he ran like a 4.4, 4.3. But like you said, I don't think he ever touched. Well, I don't even know if he touched the field in preseason, truthfully.
We'll get to it. Well, no, we're going to stop at the draft, so we won't get to it. All right, so that John Lynch did a lot of trading. So here's our next move. Traded 4th round pick 143. I love you. And 5th round pick 161 to the Colts for their 4th round pick 121. And we selected running back Joe Williams. God bless you. Now, I will say I did like the signing of Joe Williams. I heard about, all the stuff that was going on, but in my mind, it was Kyle Shanahan wanted this guy. We traded up to get him. And that, to me, meant Bobby Turner wanted this guy also. Now, I'm talking about in the moment. That's what I thought. We found out later on that wasn't the case. Shanahan was the only one that wanted him. Turner didn't like this young man, and neither did John Lynch. So knowing that now, again, trading up to get players for your offensive-minded head coach because you messed up the first 3 picks. Not so much messed them up, but you went away from whatever your original plan was. Now he felt like he had to get the guys Shanahan said he liked. So I felt like he was overcompensating. Looking back at it now and using hindsight, I think that now. I feel like John Lynch was overcompensating for what he did and kind of straying away from this plan that they had going into the draft.
All right. Joe Williams was fast. You watch his tape and then you hear John Lynch. Kyle basically went and said, look, rethink this guy. I want him. Let's rethink this. Now, based solely off of what we just did the pick before, I remember giving this a lower grade because of the fact that we just traded a 4th-round pick for a running back, and then we drafted a running back. One who hasn't played all year.
And quit on his team.
Walked away from football, and then you go and pick a round 4 guy in somebody who and then I can remember everybody was so hype about Joe Williams. I think I was probably one of the only guys that was not even hype about this dude. Like, not one bit.
Well, the reason you're hype about him is because when you looked at the film, if you put on the tape and you watched him move, the guy was freaking electric, man. He was. What was it, Utah? He's like he put him on his back. He by him, like he was the offense. Like, I don't know, man. I liked it once I looked.
He was just a north-south runner. Like, he wasn't anything special. He just had electric speed.
He would have done great with Chip Kelly.
Huh?
He would have done great with Chip Kelly.
Probably.
Yep.
Probably. Because Chip Kelly would have, I don't know, Chip Kelly might have kept him and then just traded him.
Chip Kelly likes the north-south guys.
Yeah. I'm just saying Chip Kelly got rid of a lot of good players, like in Philly. He just demised that team over there.
All right, so here we go here. All right, so that was that. All right, now selected tight end George Kittle in the 5th round, 146 overall. And I remember when this happened, I remember seeing Kittle's name on certain so if you watch the ticker during draft time, the NFL combine, you can see like they rank everything per position. Tight ends 40 times. And
right.
you see the top 10 run across the screen. Tight ends broad jumps, and you see the tight. And I remember seeing George Kittle's name up there in each one of the top 10s for every, you know what I mean, for each one of the little subjects there. And so I do remember seeing that, but I had no other idea of who this guy was. I couldn't tell, like, what do we need another blocking tight end for? You know what I mean? And that was my thoughts on it at the time. Boy, was I wrong. Boy, was I wrong. And honestly, I'm not sure. I think they've admitted it. I think they've admitted as much as they didn't think George Kittle was going to be the pass catching guy that he became. They said that they wanted him for a blocker, and
and that was because there wasn't much tape on him catching the football.
Exactly.
Like I said, they literally, I think when they were watching C.J. Beathard, he was throwing to Kittle. So, like at the pro day, I think Kittle was throwing. He probably would have been better off throwing to Beathard.
Shut up.
But Beathard was throwing to Kittle. I'm gonna be the bearer of bad news here. I actually rated that pick a little bit lower than a B. I gave it like a C at the time because we had Vance McDonald here, we had Garrett Selleck here, and it was just like Vance is really good at blocking. He could get better at catching, but I didn't see the need of tight end at that position. So, and when I say I'm giving my grades aren't always on the player. It's position that they were taken, where they were taken, what our needs were, and things like that. So, but man, goddamn, am I happy to have George Kittle.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I think everyone agrees with that. And looking back on it, was a great move. And this might be looking back, you got Joe Williams, Capri Bibbs, C.J. Beathard, Keller Witherspoon, Reuben Foster, Solomon Thomas. This might be the first good move John Lynch made that entire draft. I mean, Keller Witherspoon is still there, and I think Keller is going to have a really good season. But this might be, so far, this is the only move that's bore good fruit this entire draft. Just what it is. All right, so the next move was Trent Taylor. And I remember when this pick happened, I thought he was, I'm going to get the player's name wrong. Was it Ryan Switzer? There was a young wide receiver that came out in the same draft, and I thought that Trent Taylor was a poor man's version of him. He went early in the draft too. Oh shit, sorry. I got to look it up. But what were your thoughts on the Trent Taylor signing?
Watching what he did in college, I was excited. I was at that point I was still a little nervous about the fact of his height and size. But then he reminded me of Wes Welker. That's literally who he reminded me of. I've said it on video. I've said it on all kinds of things that we've done, podcasts, whatever. So I was excited about the pick because if you go back and you watch tape on this guy, he stands out. I mean, he had a lot of receiving yards. He was quick. He was shifty. And yeah, I was excited about this pick. I actually gave it a B. That was what I gave it at that time of need. It was round 5. It's not too high. It wasn't too late. It was like right in between. Well, a little bit past between, but you know what I mean? So I gave it a B because it was a position of need that we needed.
Yeah, it was Ryan Switzer. I was right. Ryan Switzer went to the Cowboys at pick 133. And he was the little 5'8" guy that everyone's talking about. He's so shifty and he's going to be so special. And I immediately thought, oh, look at us trying to get, we were mad that the Cowboys got Ryan Switzer before we did. So we get his little brother, the little clone. And it's cool to look at it. 5'8" for Ryan Switzer. You know what I mean? And like the size comps and everything.
They're pretty much the same. It's like 5'8", 195 or 185.
Yeah, well, you got Trent Taylor 5'8", 176, and you have Ryan Switzer at 5'8", 133 was his pick number. Where'd he go? All right here. All right, yeah. You have Ryan Switzer here from North Carolina at 5'8" and 185. So they were, like I said, they were clones of each other. But that was my only thought at the time. And I was like, well, if we can get the production that people expect from Ryan Switzer out of this guy, then we'll be good. In his first year, I think he had a better year than Ryan Switzer. But then, he had the back injuries and things like that. We're hoping to see him bounce back also. Still up in the air on that, but not mad at John Lynch for that. I think that was a good grab there. All right.
I like Trent Taylor. I still like Trent Taylor.
This was one of my favorite, a pick I liked a little bit more after Trent Taylor. We selected DJ Jones in the 6th round of pick number 198. I liked, it's weird. The defensive tackles that we pick up at the end of drafts, and I know I'm getting ahead of it, but I also felt this way about Julian Taylor. I don't know if you remember, I really liked the Julian Taylor pick as soon as it happened, and he was a 7th round guy. But yeah, so DJ Jones, 6th round pick, number 198 overall. I remember that happening, and I was like, yeah, that's solid. That's a good pick for us. And we haven't seen him get enough snaps, but he took the spot from Earl Mitchell. So we're confident that he's gonna come in and do his thing.
Yeah, I mean, I like DJ Jones. I gave this a C though, like at the time, because we had already because of what we picked up. We had Chris Jones, Don Jones, Earl Mitchell, and I'm like, okay, where's this kid gonna play? Like at that point, we were overstacked. I didn't see him as being a better player at the time than Earl Mitchell. So it wasn't an upgrade. It was more of, okay, we're drafting for potential here. It wasn't we were replacing something. And I know it was round 6, but you can still get some good talent in round 6, which we did. DJ Jones is a good pick, but what my mindset was at that time, I was giving him a C because I didn't think he was better than what we had already to where he could come in and just start. But yeah, I gave it a C. Well, I like DJ Jones though.
You said you like him though?
Yeah, I do like him. I think that I might like him a little more than I like Solomon Thomas playing inside. So
I don't know if you remember my thoughts on the Earl Mitchell signing. I liked him. But what I didn't like was that he got that 4-year contract. So when I saw the signing of DJ Jones, I was like, all right, that makes sense. If he can come in here and play well, contingency plan for Big Earl. That was my thinking behind it. So, that's why I probably ended up liking it a little bit more than what you did, because like you see the log jam, you see all the players that are there, and I'm thinking Earl don't belong here for 4 years, and we're gonna need someone younger who's gonna know the system. So it makes sense, man. It's crazy how you can look at the same exact thing and think two different thoughts on it, from two different people. It's kind of nuts, man. I like doing these things. All right, we're almost done with the draft. We got 2 players left: Peter Talmopinu in the 6th round of 2002. I didn't like trying to say his name. I'm still not 100% sure I'm saying it right. And we've gotten,
I'm paying you.
yeah, sure.
It is. When I saw him in California, I asked him how to say it.
Oh no, I believe you. I'm saying, yeah, okay.
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying, yeah, sure. Like I was busting your chops.
Oh no, not at all, not at all. But like this is a tree that has borne no fruit. He's got to do something, man. He's changing numbers. He's cut his hair. He looks like a completely different person. What are you gonna do?
He didn't really have a shot though his first year. He didn't touch the field at all.
But that tells me that he's not good. Do you remember how many pass rushers and edge guys we went through?
I can't say that though. Before I would agree with you, and until the Nick Mullins thing, when everybody says, "Well, why isn't Nick Mullins getting snaps at practice? Why isn't he getting more snaps?" Now I don't believe that, because there could be a little bit better talent, and this is on the coaches as to what we had. Because when Peter came in and played last year, obviously he could have took that 1 year for development, because I think they drafted him to be a Leo. I think that's really what they wanted him to bulk up and be a Leo. And I don't think he was at that point in his playing weight. I'm sorry?
That point in his development, is that what you said?
Yeah, like his point in development, playing weight and stuff like that, to where what they wanted him to be playing in the Leo. And then he didn't get the snaps there. He just was learning and learning and learning. And then we started seeing him get more snaps last year. So I think he is a projection type of draft player. Late in round 6, you drafted him for a certain position, but you wanted him to bulk up, because Peter was actually a pretty decent player in college. He was half decent. So I did end up giving this pick a B. And the reason I did that was because drafting him to play in a need that we were needing. And they even said it on draft day, possible Leo, And I'm like, okay, well, this is a need. Would I still be at a B right now? No, probably not. I mean, he really has to do something now because of the fact that D Ford. If we get no Nick Bosa, there's just no room for him. Like, it's sad, but there's no room for
him. So when I think about when I thought about the signing of Peter, you know how everyone drew the correlation. I don't know if anyone's ever said this before, and I don't know if I've even shared this. You know how everyone drew the correlation that we found George Kittle because Beathard was throwing passes to him. I thought that this guy was, showing up on tape when you are watching the practices and things like that of Joe Williams, because they both came from Utah. So I thought maybe there was something there. Now, obviously, they're on opposite sides of the ball, so that's why I'm talking about practices. You know what I mean? So I don't know what it was, man. But he didn't get his chance. I get it, but I just feel like the Niners have gone through so many guys at that position that how can you not get out there for a little bit? We've seen Dakota Watson take more snaps there than Peter, and that shouldn't be. That's not right, man. But I really, really like this young man, and I hope that we can get him his shot. It's got to be this year. It's literally now or never for him, because the clock, it's up, man. The time is beyond ticking. Like, this is it. But yeah, so we'll keep this thing moving. We have one more draft pick here, and this one I was a little uneasy about. I'd be lying if I said I knew anything about the young man. That was defensive back Adrian Colbert. I didn't know anything about him. I didn't know how fast he ran his 40 at his pro day or anything like that. He was just a big question mark. His rookie season, he came in, and I was like, holy shit, phenomenal get. And then this year came, and I was like, what happened? what happened. So I don't know. I don't know where I'm at on the Adrian Colbert train. I do believe that he's still gonna get that starting spot in free safety. Those are my two guys. Remember we talked about it. That's my bet, man. Him and AK are gonna be the starters. I believe in them holding off those veterans and showing the NFL why the youth movement is what it's gonna be.
Yeah, I mean Adrian Colbert. I think he only played 1 year there as a DB. I don't think he played 1 year or 2 years, because he was a transfer, I think, to the U over there in Miami. But I still don't think he's going to be a starter this year. I think Jimmy Ward is going to be the starter probably. But I hope that I see Adrian Colbert on the field more than I see Jimmy Ward. I think Adrian is back into his own mind. I think he's already working out. I see videos of him out like pushing it. And if he can stay healthy and get out of his own mind, I think he's still going to be a great 7th round pick. I still think he's going to fill out. And even if it's just he gets 1 more year on the bench as a developmental player, if Jimmy Ward comes out, which, oh God, I still think Jimmy Ward's going to start, but I'm hoping that he doesn't. I God hope that he doesn't. But you never know. But I like Adrian Colbert, and I wish him nothing but the best. I want to see him get back to that Punisher status.
Yeah, man. I agree with you there wholeheartedly. All right, let's wrap this thing up here. We'll stop at the draft. And what we'll do is we'll start from May 1st when we come back. And what that's going to be is we'll start with like the things that happen exercising, since you're talking about him, Jimmy Ward's 5th-year option. That was the deadline for it. So we'll pick this up on part 2 of evaluating John Lynch. All right. We'll pick this up on the next time. Maybe we don't have to do this once a week. If you want, we can try to do this twice a week. It depends on what we're doing with the mock draft series and things like that throughout the week. But we got to get through this. It's probably going to end up being a 4-part series if we do it at the pace that we're doing it. And I think it's deserving of it because there's a lot of mixed emotion about what John Lynch is. And I'm excited to discuss this past season more than I am his first season. So any other thoughts on John Lynch and what we've gone through so far? I mean, if I stop to reflect on it right now, and I had to give him a grade based off of what we've seen him do, the free agents that he signed, the trades that he made, and the players that he signed, using hindsight and what they are so far, ignoring everything else after that, I would give John Lynch a C-, believe it or not. That would be my grade up to the closing of the NFL draft and looking at what those players have become and everything. A C-.
Yeah, I would. I mean, for the free agent signings and stuff like that, I'd probably, with the overpaying, the contracts type things like that, I'd probably give them a C there. It's a C or a B there because we addressed things that we needed. Obviously, we needed to fill out the team, but the contracts probably took that grade down a little bit. I'd go with probably a B-, C there. The draft with the trades was an A+, obviously. Some of the picks that were in that draft, I'd go a little bit lower, but transactions before and after, I'm probably right where you're at. I'm probably at a C-, a C+. Not quite at that B stand yet. If it was just the draft and the trades, I'd probably give it an A+. But like I said, when you average all of those together, I'm probably at that C+, C- area as well.
Yeah, man. Jason DeMonchi definitely saved him from getting a D in my book.
Yeah, D, New Jersey up in here.
Yeah, that's right, baby. All right, guys. So we hope you guys enjoyed this one. Make sure you guys are tuned in. All right. Hit us up on the iTunes or TuneIn or Google Play, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, wherever you listen to your podcast. We will turn this into a podcast for you guys. We hope you enjoyed it. We're going to get up out of here. Nick, is there anything else you want to say in closing, man?
No, man, I just want to say thanks to all our fans, man. We're like 30 subscribers away from 5,000, so make sure that you guys hit that like and subscribe button. Once we hit that 5,000 subscribers, we will give away that Jimmy Garoppolo jersey, color rush, extra large size, just so you know. And I just want to say huge shout out to our fans, man. Furpo, D. Philpott, Timbo Slice, Alex Moreno, all you guys that are watching on YouTube, man. Love the support and the love that you guys give us. And that's pretty much it, man.
Prepare for glory.
Anticipate pain.
But always remain faithful.
We out of here.